Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Empower to Live, the podcast where faith meets purpose and purpose fuels freedom. I am your host, Andrea Rose Butler of the Becoming Women's Network. So glad that you could join me this evening. Such a wonderful time. Celebrated my birthday on Monday. Yay! So crossed over into another decade, and it was like, whoo, kids were like, "How does it feel to be old?" I was like, I don't know. Sometimes my body feels like I'm like feeling all the decades, but then other times I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I can live in the promise. And so I thank you for all the ones who, messaged me or wrote on my timeline on Facebook. Thank you for my friends who came out, celebrated with me in person. I appreciate all of you. Thank you all so much. And thank you all again for joining me for another episode and another evening. You guys are so appreciated, and I love you all. And so let's jump right in. We are continuing our series. We are in week 3 of our series, Faith in Action, and we're going to talk about purpose in practice. So talking about last week, we talked about, faith without works is dead. So we had to put some action behind it, but it's not enough just to have, the action and be like, oh, well, I'll get started. And you may start, but never continue. It's about practice, and practice is an ongoing thing. Just like, doctors practice medicine, they practice law. We practice football. We practice for the things that are important. Practice, you know, um, the saying that says, "Practice makes perfect," but Dale Carnegie says, "Practice makes permanent." So the more you do it, the more it becomes a part of you, the more it becomes part of your routine, and you keep doing and working at it. You may not be good or great when you first start out, and that's okay. I've shared, countless times on this podcast about my journey that I've been on with this podcast, and the growing and the learning that I have been doing since I started. Can you believe it? In about 4 months, will be 2 years, and I am just so excited that and it's about practice. It's about consistency. It's about doing it even when it gets hard, even when, you want to give up, but keep going. So we're going to faith in action, and we're going to purpose in practice. So in order for you to get good at what you want to do, you just got to keep moving, got to keep practice, keep working at it. Don't give up. And our scripture for this, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. He says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as if you're working for the Lord. So it's not about, you know, man or somebody else's approval, who's going to clap for you, who didn't clap for you, who showed up, who didn't show up, who supported you, who didn't support you. It's about working as if unto the Lord. And that's the important part. And that's something that I have learned and I am learning, that what I do is not about who showed up and who didn't show up, but it's like, what's your motive? Going back to my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it so that I can be liked by people? Is it for the applause? Is it for me to say, oh, look at me, look what I'm doing? And if that's your reason, you're going to be disappointed, because people, and people will, they will not show up for you. You're going to have haters. You're going to have moments where the emotional load of doing whatever it is that you're purposed to do sometimes can get heavy, and you want to give up. You want to quit. It's like you don't want to do this. I've been sharing about my own health struggles, and there were times when I'm just like, I just want to lay in this bed and I get up because I hurt, and I just wanted to stop, and I don't want to do any of this thing. But when I look at what's my why, and if you want to dig deeper into that, go back and watch that episode that I did sometime last year, early last year, about your why. Your why is the thing that's going to push you when you don't feel like being pushed, when you don't feel like, getting up, and you don't feel like, you know, writing another page. I told y'all I've started a novel journey, so y'all pray for me. So I started writing a novel. It's something that I've always wanted to do. But I've done devotionals and Bible studies and different things like that. But I've never. I started out one a long time ago that I was going to write, and it's still there, and I may go back to it. But this one just dropped in my spirit a while back, a couple of weeks ago, and I just felt this press to write this novel. And so, when I'm waking up early in the morning, and I'm getting up, and I'm hitting the keyboards of writing, and the opportunity that I get, I'm sitting here and I'm writing. It's called Destiny's Hope, and so y'all pray for me as I write for creativity. But that's the thing, when you don't want to, because I've got a lot going on. Y'all know that I'm in school right now, and trying to do a dual degree. Uh, Still teaching at church because I love teaching. You know, we got this podcast going because I love this, or I've grown to love it, should say. And so when I've found the why of what I do, empowering, encouraging, providing inspiration, that's my why. That's my why. I want people to let my life speak. And so why would I do this? Because I'm working as unto the Lord. When I was working, out in the world for other people, and things, people say, why don't you say something? Why don't you complain? Why don't you this? Why aren't you angry when this happened? It's like, I don't work for these people. It's what I used to tell them. I said, I work for God. So, as long as not illegal, immoral, or ungodly, where do you need me to be? What do you need me to do? Because I don't work for you. I work for God, and I represent Him. And when we look at that as our reason, it makes life easier because we're not pleasing people. you know and like I said, they can say what they want to say at work. Yeah, did I have my moments? Absolutely. And I complain to God. I'm like, God, do you see what these people are doing? Do you see the way they talk to me? I- you need to handle them because I work for you. You are my boss. You are my supervisor. Why aren't you protecting me? And we had those conversations. We'll continue to have those conversations. And the same with me on this other side. I am still working as unto the Lord, working for the Lord. As one version says, as unto the Lord. We're working as unto Him. It's all about Him. What is it that He wants? What does He desire? How does He want me to show up? And so when we look at that again, not pleasing people, but looking to please God, then that's all that matters, because in the end, ultimately, He's the one that we have to report to about how we acted and what we did with the talents that He gave us. You know the story, maybe you don't. There's a story in the Bible where the um, householder left, and he left his servants in charge while he went on a journey. He gave one 5 talents, he gave one 2, and he gave one 1. And he was just like, here, I'm giving you these talents, use them, do what you need to do. The one that had 5 multiplied it, he had 10. The one had 2 multiplied it, he had 4. But the one that had 1 buried it, because he was just like, I know that you gave me this talent, and I knew you were harsh, and I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want somebody to come and take it away. I didn't want any of those things. So I hid it. And it says that the householder, when he came back, was angry at the one, because he was just like, you were wicked because you didn't use the talent that I gave you. And I don't want to be your story. You may like, I can't sing like this person, I can't write like that person, I can't do. But what do you do well? What do you do well? So purpose isn't only revealed in big moments. It's practice. Again, it's revealed in the little things. What are you good at? What if you'll come to you for? Are you the one that people come to for advice? Are you the one where everybody's like, I need you to cook because you be putting your foot in it? Are you that person? Are you the one I was talking about? I have a friend, she's my big sister in Christ. I've known her since I was 20. It's a long time. She sews, she does hair, she does real estate, she's a nurse, she does all these things, and she does all of it well. All of it well. And I was like, can I have some of your talent? She's like, but I can't write like you. But she's written she's written 2 books. And I'm like, see, but you excelled in that as well. She is a minister, she does all this other stuff, you know. She's talented. She's one of those gifted people. And I could look at her and say, well, I can't do any of those things. I wish I could sew. I wish I could do hair. I wish I could do all of these things. Since I can't do any of those other things, then I'm not going to do um, what I know that I'm gifted to do. And that is to empower, inspire, and motivate. So I'm here to light that fire onto you to get into practice. Start doing the thing that you know that you've been called to do, and you know what your thing is. And you've been sitting on it. You've been hiding it. People say, "When are you going to do that? When are you going to do?" And you're like, "Oh, one of these days." Your day is today. So this is your wake up. Today is your day. So don't miss it. So what are some of the things that we keep us from moving forward, from practicing the purpose or the gift that we've been called to? We minimize small assignments. We're like, well, it's not as good as that person. Just like the one. So he got the one. He was just like, well, I didn't get 5. So therefore, I'm not going to do anything with the one that I have. And so we minimize it. It's not as good as that one. I wish I want to sing a solo. And so therefore, even though I have a good voice, I won't join the choir because I feel like I'm not a soloist. So I don't do any of those things. I don't volunteer. I don't give. I don't do any of those things. Waiting for a platform. Like I said, we wait for a platform. We want it to be big. I've shared on this podcast many times about how I was working and I was trying to make everything perfect. I needed this to be in place and that to be in place, and I was like, I needed to do this, and I wanted to be right this, and I needed it to be like this, and I wanted to have all this other stuff. I still don't have a logo, but that's coming. But it was just I had so many excuses of waiting for everything to be right, of waiting for the right platform, the right way to do it. And so if the platform doesn't come, I've heard people who left church because they were like, they didn't give me enough opportunities to preach. The world is your pulpit, but do you leave in the church? You're looking for the pastors to give you a pulpit space when you have a world out there that's needing you to preach to them. And they left church, and I was like, why did you leave? And they were like, oh, well, I wasn't preaching enough. You didn't need that. You had a platform. There was a world. Create your own. People always say, well, they don't invite me to the table. And I had a friend and mentorship said, create your own table. Why do you need somebody to invite you to a table? Create your own. That's what this podcast is, and so I create my own table, and this is what sometimes we have to do. We have to create the opportunities. Our gifts will make room for us, but the room is created. We have the gift, but we don't enter the rooms that we're supposed to be in, and so we don't do it. Again, compare and impact. If I reach one person, I've made an impact. We want to reach thousands, but we can't be faithful with me reaching one. Feeling unseen, and that's valuable. It's a valuable point, but sometimes we have to step into the rooms. I told you all before that I was a shadow person. I was just like, leave me in the background, put me in the kitchen. Where do you need me to be? Behind and somewhere doing what? What do you need me to do? Clean up? I can do that after everybody's gone. Yes, that was me. And God was like, no, I need you to come out from the back. You've been in there too long. It's time for you to step forward. But it took a while for me to come out, and sometimes we may feel unseen, and it's valid. But we're unseen because we refuse to step into the light. And we need to sometimes step into the light and come out of our place of comfort so that we can be seen. And that takes practice again. When you start making, again, your gifts will make room for you, but you have to exercise, practice the gift in order for it to make room for you. Because if you're not using the gift, it's not going to make room for you. So see how they work together? You got to put them, everything has to be put in action. Faith without works is dead. You got to put that into action. You've got to make that room. So whatever it is that you're desiring, whatever your purpose is, whatever God has purpose and plan for you. A lot of times we're like, oh, I'm waiting for God to do this. And God said, no, I've been waiting for you to take that first step. I need you to step out, and I need you to be present and practicing the things that I have placed in your hand. It's not going to happen overnight. And I look back at my first book that I wrote, and I was just like, oh, this was so amateur. There was so many errors. I was like, oh my God, where are all the commas? But I've gotten better over the years. I've come a long way from my first book. I've rewritten it, and it's gotten a lot better, more pages, more chapters, more everything. Technology has also gotten better as well. So there was a lot of stuff, but I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I just kept on writing. Every time an inspiration came, I'll write it down. I'll start writing and do whatever. But then I had to actually put it into practice and actually complete a book, and not just have the idea that I sit on and never take action. Yeah. Do I have multiple books in various stages of completion? Absolutely. But I write the ones that I felt compelled to finish, and they're all coming. They're coming because it's like you're always writing. Because I am a writer, and that's what writers do. Writers write. And if you say that you're a writer and you're not writing, you're not a writer. So let's get out of that place of comfort, and let's do that. Let's come out of the shadows. Become seen. Come step out, step forward. So how can we move past all these challenges that we have, the hindrances that we have that minimizing our assignment? Don't despise small beginnings. That's the first thing. So faithfulness builds spiritual confidence. So when you are faithful, when you start practicing, when you start doing, when you start using and exercising, just like muscles, when you start exercising that muscle, yes, it hurts in the beginning. You're going to feel some muscle fatigue and all the other stuff, but as you keep working at it, and it's going to happen. But you have to keep going. You have to keep practicing. So God values obedience over recognition. Again, if no one claps for you, God is clapping for you, but He wants you to be obedient. So don't worry about who sees you, who didn't see you, who didn't clap for you, who didn't show up. Know that God sees you, and God rewards obedience. God rewards the effort. We put in the effort, we do the work. That's what God rewards. But He wants you to be faithful in that. So this is faith in action. Faith in action. And action means we're going to keep moving. Keep moving, keep moving. Don't worry about, any of those things. Don't worry about the people. I tell you about my first 10K, Monument 10K. And I thought people were passing me and they were leaving me behind. I just kept walking. And I got the trophy. I got my medal to prove that I finished. The ones that dropped out, that didn't finish, they don't have a medal. They were passing me up, and then they gave up. They quit, and they don't have a medal to show that they completed the race. We keep moving, keep practicing, keep doing. Doesn't matter who passed you or any of those things. Doesn't matter who dropped out. You keep going. You keep practicing. You keep putting your faith in action by showing up and being obedient. Purpose is practice, not postponed. So, don't do like me. We put it off and like, I want it to be perfect. And God said, just do it. I need to get a tattoo on my forehead. Just do. I don't do tattoos. I don't like. I've had enough pain. So, whole nother story. Distractions, chasing shiny objects. But keep going. Don't postpone it. Keep doing. Keep writing. Keep writing. It doesn't matter how many times maybe you publish a book and you try to get it to a publishing house and it didn't work out, you got rejected. Amazon is great that you can get your book published. And Amazon, there are so many platforms now that offer self-publishing that are free that you don't have to pay. You just if you need help, hit me up. And I know how to get it done. So let me know if you need help getting that book published. If you need me to motivate you and push you to write, whatever it is. I just reached my target weight goal as well. And so I'm super excited, and even when the scale was doing this, I could have given up and said, you know what, it's never going to happen. They've been working at this thing and this weight just doesn't want to come off. I hit my goal. All hit it. Consistency, practice. And then I was like, okay, now set another goal for myself, another 5 pounds, and I'm gonna try and maintain that. I want to go. We're not going back up, but I want to go down another 5, and we're going to stay there, and that's where I want to stay. You know, but build more muscle mass and all the other stuff. But again, not giving up. When things didn't work out. Minimizing. Okay, so you only lost 1 pound, and then you gained back a half, but it's okay. It's progress. And just keep moving. I even look from where I was back in 2019 when I was the heaviest of my entire life. And I was like, God, I don't want that. And so here we are now, almost 50 pounds down from that day when I started, back in January of 2019. Now 50 pounds, and we've been keeping it off, for the most part. And I've not gone back up. I've still kept at least 30, 35 pounds on, but now we're 50 pounds down and we're going to keep going. Again, it's about practice. Put it into practice. Even being injured and down, I'm like, there's still I can still do to work on my body to maintain my health, like I've been encouraging you all to do. And I'm looking at getting one of my persons that works with me. She does gentle guided stretch. And she has been stretching my bodies, and I told her, I don't think I've ever moved like this, even when I was younger. She was like, that's what your body's supposed to do. We're gonna get there. And I'm like, okay. But again, it's a challenge. It's work. It's about practice. It's about, getting together, not postponing this, making my, and so God has said, you said my latter years was better than my former years, my younger years. And here in my latter years, I'm in pain, but we're going to fix that too. And then again, faith in action, faith without works is dead. I'm still declaring, still working, still believing, all of those things, but I'm also putting into practice. So the things that I tell you all here, that I share with you here, this again, first partaker. So I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the work, even as I share with you the work that I'm doing. I felt unseen. I've compared myself, I have wanted to say, okay, well, people don't know me, I don't have a stage, I minimized, the assignments that I was given. So all of those things are things that I have done. I have walked through those phases, and I'm still walking through and growing in these things. So not yet reach perfection, but it's practice. So I'm practicing these things. So these practical things that I'm sharing with you are the things that I have done and that I am doing, as I have learned how to grow and how to get better at being who I was created to be. I am becoming, again, this is where the foundation of the Becoming Woman's Network is all about. We are becoming, we are growing, and we are evolving, and we're shedding, old mindsets and old thought patterns and old behaviors and things that no longer serve us. Sometimes we may have shed people who have been holding us back, who have been speaking death instead of life into us, and we have to let them go. And part of that too is through practice. Through practice, we have to let go. We have to heal, who we were, so that we become who we were supposed to be. So, challenge for this week. I want you to choose one ordinary task this week and intentionally offer it to God. So, what's something that you know that God has called you to do? One thing that whether it's at home, whether it's at work, at church, any of those things that you felt that this has been your assignment, and maybe you've been minimizing it. Maybe you've been saying, I would do this if I had, the platform to do it in. Maybe you've been comparing this calling, this work, and you're like, it's not making a big splash like so and so. Maybe you feel unseen. Offer that to God this week, intentionally saying, God, I feel unseen. I feel unseen. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm hiding or the world's just overlooking me. I don't know what it is. Offer it to God. Offer one of those things, whatever it is that you're feeling or sensing right now, whether it's you're minimizing your assignment as being too small. Maybe you've been waiting and say, God, show me how to, I want to glow up and blow up and all these things. But God was just like, no, I've got a space for you. You just don't want the platform that I want to use. You want somebody else's platform, but I've been offering you one and you haven't taken a hold of it. Ask God about that. And so for my writers, or for anyone really, where am I already living on purpose? And what have I overlooked as insignificant? And how can I be more intentional? So maybe you're already walking in your purpose and living in purpose, but you have overlooked some areas of growth. And you was like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want, afraid. I don't want to stretch myself because stretching, feels difficult. When I go and she's stretching me and I was just like, and she was just like, can I push a little bit more? And I'm like, I feel the strain. And she was like, no, you got a little bit more in you. And sometimes we were like, and I'm like, no, I think I reached my limit. And she's like, no, you haven't. You're just afraid. And fear will keep us from stretching. So maybe you're overlooking something, and that God was just like, you may think it's small, but it will make a large impact if you embrace it and allow me to stretch you just a little bit more, because you've been playing it safe. And God wants to stretch you right now. And so I just want to encourage you, don't stop waiting for someday. Today is the day. This is the moment. This is your time. This is your season. You don't have to look for another one. It's right now. And so I just want to encourage you, get to practicing, get moving, don't minimize the assignment that you've been given, even though you must like, oh, this is so small. Don't minimize it. Recognize that God wants to use it. Even though it may seem small to you, God wants to use it. Don't wait for, looking for a big stage. Use the stage that you already have. Step on it boldly, and do what you know that you're supposed to be doing. Don't compare your impact. And if you're feeling unseen, maybe it's time to step out of the shadows and allow the light of God to shine upon you, and so that He can use you for the glory and for His glory and for your good. He's waiting on you. And so that's my encouragement for you today, to step out, start practicing, start doing, put that faith in action, because God wants to use you, and He wants to use you today, because you never know. The life you save may be your very own. So thank you all for joining me on this evening. Thank you again for always being here. I want you to continue to live in power, because God has given us everything that we need to live not only this life, but to also live godly. Have a great evening. Good night. See you all next week.